Welcome to One on One. I'm Greg Bassey, your host from the Salisbury Independent newspaper. It's another big day here at PAC 14. It's election season, and we are interviewing candidates for the various state and county offices. Today, we're in District 37A of the General Assembly, and we have Mr. Frank Cook, who lives in Cambridge, running in District 37A. Welcome, sir.
Thank you very much, Greg. Thanks for having me. It's a great opportunity to get a message out to the voters.
Now, 37A is the the minority-majority district in our region.
We call it gerrymandered.
Gerrymandered district, you can say that, certainly. The Justice Department might not agree, but that's certainly a good way of looking at it. But it extends from Salisbury through Cambridge into Hurlock. It's a winding, very interesting-looking district. What's it like to run in a district like that?
Well, one of the advantages of the district is smaller than 37B.
Right.
And of course, you've got two municipalities, both Cambridge and Salisbury, and then you have a lot of rural area in between. So people have different ideas about how government should be operating depending on where you live.
Right. So you have some political experience. You were on the Cambridge City Council.
Yeah, I was elected in 2014 to complete the remaining 2.5 years of a term of a councilman who passed away. I was not a local. They don't usually elect locals.
Right.
I managed to defeat 3 locals to win that seat. It was a great experience learning to interact with other representatives from the community. Of course, there are plenty of issues that come up for city council that are important to the citizens of Cambridge. I have to say that I threw myself into it. I worked very hard. I usually knew all about the issues were they to be on the agenda. And so I intend to work as hard at the State House as I did there.
So you were doing that neighborhood political type stuff, yes?
Absolutely.
Sidewalks and curbs and streetlights.
Sewers,
Yeah.
Comcast licensing,
Right.
all sorts of things.
Right. And you moved to Cambridge from the Eastern Shore. Why did you choose Cambridge? Why did you want to make that your home?
Actually, Cambridge reminded me of where I grew up, a place called Galveston, Texas, which is an island off the Gulf Coast, pretty much surrounded by water, as Cambridge is. Mm-hmm. It also has had a lot of Victorian homes, and Cambridge has more of those than any other place in Maryland. So I felt pretty comfortable when I got into Cambridge.
Right. Now, that's a community, we have a brother-sister relationship with Cambridge from Salisbury. It's a community that's always about to take off economically, but then it doesn't really seem to take off. And like the Hyatt was going to solve all of Cambridge's problems. But now, Cambridge really seems to be on the move. It seems to be on a move that's more true to itself.
Yeah, and I think a lot of that has to do with the private sector. People who are outside of government, who are often the driving force. This is particularly true in the downtown Main Street area where the restaurateurs have moved in. That has brought more people into the city. Of course, we also have 2 versions of Ironman.
Right.
We're the only place in the United States that operates 2 races for that organization. In fact, one of them is coming up this weekend.
Brings thousands of people, so crazy event.
Great exposure.
Yeah.
Yeah, great exposure.
So why do you want to be a delegate in the General Assembly? What has driven you to make this move here?
Well, I thought about it a lot. There are a couple of reasons I initially got into the race because I thought Governor Hogan was doing a really good job for the state of Maryland, and I thought he needed some Republican help in the legislature. I also wanted to give the voters a choice in 2018 that they did not have in 2014. Recently, we had a dedication of the new American Legion Hall, and there were lots and lots of people from the community, plus the entire Hogan staff, and people were giving awards to people who had done good things for the community. And my heart actually swelled from being involved with the group of people who were contributing so much to their community. I felt quite frankly belittled by
Right.
their accomplishments.
Right. And that new American Legion building, it's, boy, what an impressive and well-earned facility that is.
Yes, little fire will help a lot.
That's a good point. Any problems with the incumbent? The incumbent there is Cherie Sample Hughes. Do you know her? Any problems with how she operates?
I know her, and I have a lot of respect for her. For the voters, I think they're going to have a very clear choice this time. First of all, they have a Republican on the ballot, which they did not have 4 years ago. And I think of myself as I've been around a long time. I had to deal with a lot of people over the years. And you need to think less about party labels and more about what's really good for the citizens. Of course, I come from the philosophically point of view of looking for a smaller government, fewer taxes, less involvement in your life. And my opponent, I would say that her view is different. I don't want to speak for her, but I look at her voting record. She very often votes with the Western Shore folks.
Yeah. One of her strengths, it's in our delegation, everyone seems to have an issue or an area of expertise. Her is healthcare. She's very involved in healthcare. She's a kind of go-to person for healthcare. Is there a particular issue that you would like to make your own that you care a lot about?
Well, I know a little bit about education. First of all, I've been to a lot of schools and been, after I retired and went back to school, but after completing a degree, another degree, I decided to get involved with the Dorchester County Public School System, both as a teacher and a coach. My wife, of course, is right outside here.
Yeah.
We were tutors in the what's called the home hospital program. That's a program where the county will hire tutors to work with students who are out of school for extended medical care. That led to a coaching opportunity. I was a tennis coach at Cambridge for maybe 6 years or so. And I even did some long-term substitution, worked it's a public school, it's down in the country, down in Golden Hill.
Right, Golden Hill. It's beautiful
Yeah,
down there, yeah.
and the math teacher got pregnant. It was time to have the baby. They wanted me to come in. I told them, I said, look, the last time I was in middle school was when I was in middle school. It was a little while ago. But I did have a lot of fun over that 6 or 7 week period working with the students. And it was hard work. It gives you a new appreciation for what teachers go through. I think I learned a little bit more about the school issues as I've gone along. I've got some ideas about how to make some improvements.
Dorchester, like Wicomico, is going through a kind of introspective phase about how much money to spend on education.
Oh, yes.
And there's been a lot of great money spent on the capital stuff, some new school construction. But what is the mood about education in Dorchester County?
Well, Dorchester County, there's, I'm going to say, for whatever reasons, and I'm not quite sure exactly what all the reasons are, is experiencing a teacher shortage. The number of teachers that left this year are well above the norm. Part of that has to do with the pay, and there may be other reasons for that. My understanding that teacher shortage is a nationwide problem. So my feeling is that investment in education pays off in many, many ways beyond just sheer education. You remember that when people decide to move into a community, one of the things that's important to them, particularly for younger folks, is the public school system. So Dorchester County has a great opportunity to move up with their levels, and it is a challenge. I think that the legislature, well, actually the citizens this coming November will have an opportunity to lock down educational money. for when I first came to Maryland, the politicians always said, "Well, if you let us do lottery, we'll put the money in education." Then it was then it was casinos, etc. Well, the money got spent in other ways besides education. So there's a referendum issue this November in which all casino money will be put into a fund that can only be used for education. That should help. Commitment by both local government and the legislature to putting more money into education, asking the boards of education to find better, smarter ways of getting the message across, using more technology. I know I was working this weekend with my daughter who's going back to school. She had this Blackboard computer program that was helping her outside of the schoolroom. Things like that, innovative ideas. There are lots of innovations. I come from the world of innovation. We're always, fighting some adversary in the military.
Talk about your background a little bit. That's interesting.
Yeah, my background, I started out, I was a mathematician. I went to work for a research laboratory for the Navy. I worked in the upfront section of weapon system design, conceptual design, what kind of a weapon system might be useful to solve a particular problem by an adversary. In those days, it was the Russians for the most part, Soviet Union. You have to compete against other ideas, and so to some extent, a lot of that sort of thing transfers over into government, where there are competing ideas about how to solve a problem. I'm used to doing that. If you want to go further in my career, I left the Navy, went to work in the private sector supporting the Federal Bureau of Investigations and international drug interdiction for 3 or 4 years. And then I translated into the super stealthy world of intelligence.
Interesting. That's fascinating. It really is. A lot of talk here in our county about maintenance of effort, and we have politicians who get excited about meeting the local maintenance of effort. On the state side, they look at it and say, why don't you contribute more locally to education so the state doesn't have to come in and bail you out every year on education? Do you think the local governments should contribute more, or do you like the state having more role in how much it gives out for education?
Well, I'd love to have the local governments contribute more. The state often is trying to shift responsibilities to local government. As I said, they're going to have a lot more money to use in education if this referendum, and I think it will pass. To me, it's a no-brainer. I came from a relatively poor background. Education was the key to where I am today. Paying attention. I wasn't the best student in the world at one point, but we really need to get a concerted effort and get everybody to buy in. It pays off in lots of different ways, and that includes the parents, the teachers. We need to, and the local officials. I know we can't give any more money. We need to fix this road and fix this bridge. Yes, absolutely. And I'm not advocating, raising taxes to do this. Okay. I think that some innovation would be helpful. Perhaps we can do more with less.
Right. No, that makes sense. You mentioned the governor early on, your supporter. Governor's really, for a Republican, really popular in this state. What does he owe his popularity to? Why is Larry Hogan so popular?
Because he's very much willing to talk to the other side. He's known for that. He's not a radical. He wouldn't belong to the Freedom Caucus in the United States Representatives. He'd be a guy that's reaching across the aisle, looking for solutions. I think that I am more like him.
You recognize in the General Assembly you would probably have to do that a lot.
Absolutely. You have no other choice because there are 2/3 of the Assembly are in the other party.
Right. So yeah, but there are a lot of even our own delegation who won't even talk to the Democrats.
Well, they need to change.
Yeah.
Yeah.
People obviously want to learn more about you, reach out to you, contact you. How can people get a hold of you?
Well, I have a website. I don't have it memorized in my head here. Okay.
We'll put it up on the screen.
Put it up on the screen. More than likely, I'm going to come to see you.
Okay.
I've been doing a lot of door knocking since last March. There are literally thousands of people who have had visits from Frank Cook.
Excellent.
So I'm trying to get myself better known, particularly in Wicomico County, where I do not live. If you don't contact me, I'll contact you.
Okay. He's Frank Cook. He's running for the House of Delegates 37A, and it was a pleasure to have him here today. So thanks for being here, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Joining me now in the studio is Delegate Cherie Sample Hughes from District 37A. Welcome.
Thank you. So always a pleasure to be here.
So you're running for re-election.
I am, and I have enjoyed serving District 37A thus far and seeing the fruits of the labor, if you will, and looking forward to serving another term as well.
You were on our county council for a lot of years, and I always think of you as a county councilwoman, and I have to be reminded that you're also a delegate. But that's because the district is a strange district. It's the minority-majority district.
Right.
Extends from Wicomico County all the way to Easton.
No, actually all the way into Cambridge
Into
area,
Cambridge
Dorchester
and
County.
Hurlock, that
Yes,
area.
Yes.
So it's quite an extensive, you have to cover a lot of territory is my point.
Yes, indeed. And certainly during this campaign season, I'm getting a lot of steps in. I have my little Fitbit on.
Right.
And I'm getting the steps in by going door to door. But certainly, yes, it's a large territory. It in of itself is somewhat diverse as far as area where we have, City of Salisbury in the district and also the farming area in Hurlock.
Right.
So it certainly extends itself to being versatile in a lot of ways, or needing to be versatile in a lot of ways.
Has it been hard learning the issues and the people, the players out in Dorchester County and Caroline County?
Not really. I think, as I was sharing with you right before we came on, I think, God places us in places and positions for certain reasons. Ironically, my in-laws are from Hurlock, and so not even knowing one day I would run for House of Delegates, but the mere fact that I was there, courting my fiance at the
Right.
time, and he served at that time with the Hurlock Fire Department. So when the siren went off, I kind of got to know more lay of the land, if you will, by seeing him run and go wherever he needed to go. But then also, moreover, just the ability to connect with the people, and specifically in Cambridge. Some of the issues in Cambridge are likewise some here in Salisbury. The goals to increase minority businesses and the ownerships and things of that nature. So I've been working with the Chamber of Commerce over in Dorchester County as well here in Salisbury to increase that for individuals who are interested in flourishing in their business, but then also connecting them to resources. Networking, as you know, is very key.
Right.
So the issues are somewhat similar, but certainly the way they approach those issues can be different in various communities. So I try my best to attend community events, attend churches, whatever the case may be, just to understand more intimately what those concerns are and see how I can be of a resource to them. Just on a couple weeks ago, I had the opportunity to take a tour of Cambridge with regards to rain gardens and how to address flooding and
Right.
the issues.
Right.
Well, that opened up a new door to me in the sense where I was actually seeing some best practices put in place to address flooding, to have neighbors involved in the issue and trying to make sure that the runoff isn't going right into our bay in unclean manner. It's going through and filtering through the rocks, through the grass. I mean, different ways of doing things. And I thought it was really neat. I mean, we went like neighborhood by neighborhood,
Right.
and then also right there at the chop tank. So, it's still learning, and it's always evolving.
Hearing really nice things about Cambridge in terms of some progression with the economy and with some growth and some good decisions like you're talking about. That's going to be more like pure Cambridge, like true to itself, if that makes sense.
It truly is. Just this past year or more, there's been certainly a movement there from two young people. The names are Dion Banks and Keisha Petticolis, very entrenched in the history of what had gone on in Cambridge with the riots, with the inequality for people in general, but moving that forward in the sense of having the conversations on racism and celebrating the good things that are there in the community and building upon those strengths. And I've seen that it's growing, and it's growing by leaps and bounds, where more people are having those tough conversations, whereas they wouldn't have had them before, but they have them around the framework of what it looked like when they were growing up. I went to a event that was over to the Hyatt. It was about a year and a half ago now, but Gloria Richardson, who was very involved in the movement there in Cambridge, and she was present. And this woman is clearly beyond her 80s at this, presently, and very still vocal about what she experienced as a young girl growing up in the area, but also the fact that the issues are somewhat there, still remain, where we have to be vocal. We have to stand up and work together, because everything that you may see on the surface may not really be the truth. There was a young man that was there. He said he grew up in the area, and his family owned a business, a pharmacy in the community, and he saw when Mrs. Richardson went to jail, where she was taken away for speaking up and saying, what had gone on. And he made it known that night that he was told that he threw a rock at her while she was going to jail, but he really didn't. And so all this had gone on for years in the minds of many people, that he may have been part of the racism and that was entrenched in the community, and he wasn't. And so he stood up and he said, I wasn't a part of that. But someone from a magazine took a picture of him, just thinking the connection, and that kind of kept the unfortunate tone of racism running deep in that community.
Right.
And so this man stood up and he says, Ms. Richardson, it wasn't me. I didn't do anything like that. And it was just that conversation and that appreciation for one another. It would kind of show where we can go if we just really sit and talk and listen to one another. And I think that's going to be the strength of any community.
Right.
But moreover, I see it happening over in Dorchester and Cambridge in particular.
And the people in Cambridge are so nice. Whenever I'm over there, they're just so nice.
Yeah, and they have the entrepreneurial spirit.
Yeah.
It's thriving.
Yeah, very much.
Yes, indeed.
In our local Lower Shore, Mid-Shore delegation, there are 8 members with the senators. You and one other person are a Democrat.
Yes.
Yet you're not shunned by these Republicans. I see them engaging you very much, and when you talk, they listen.
Well,
Do you feel that?
I do. I do. It's certainly because I'm a firm believer that we need to approach all issues with just being honest. Say where you are and what that issue may be. While we, as a public or people in the Eastern Shore delegation in general, may not always agree, but it's necessary for you to just be upfront, say what it is, do the research, and vote how you feel as though that you should vote for your people, for your community, for your district. And that's just how I've always approached things. And I still have the respect of persons I served with on the county council. There was a time where I was the only Democrat on the county council. But again, I try to look at all issues of how it's going to affect everyone, but ultimately I am going to stand up for what I believe in and stand up for the people I represent. A case in point, we had a meeting last night that is dealing with a landfill expansion here in Salisbury. And my concern, and it has been for some time, no secret, that oftentimes we see that landfills are always expanding in the minority community.
Always, yeah.
And I'm concerned about that. And I made that known last night to the Maryland Department of Environment, as well as the county council and all those that were in attendance. Because, we have to, it should be beyond the fact that this is where a landfill should be comfortably placed.
Right.
That's not, and it should not be the case. We are concerned about our property values as well. And we're concerned about the water quality and any contamination that could and very well come from those types of entities. So, I'm going to continue to have my voice and let it be heard. But working together is ultimately has to be the goal, because that's only how we're going to get anything done. In the House of Delegates, there's 141 of us. And yes, the Democrats are majority in the House. But we still need each other's voice. We all serve on those committees. We all have to listen to the testimony that comes before us. And a lot of these issues, particularly in my committee, I'll say, they're not Democrat or Republican.
Right.
Those are human quality
Right.
issues. I serve on health and government operations, and they're just quality of life issues and trying to do the right thing for people. And sometimes people actually forget
Right.
what party you're from, you know,
Right.
just listening to the issues and various questions that are vetted. So that's ultimately, it's always been my approach to issues in this.
Well, I don't want to get you in trouble with Democrats, but when the governor's in town, I see you around him. You all have great rapport.
Well,
Nobody
he
listens.
should. He should. I'm elected by the people who
Right.
probably voted for him as well to some degree.
Right.
But, you know, once again, we can't do this in isolation of a party, you know. So while there are things that I don't agree with the governor,
Right.
and I'm sure that is, you know, that's no secret, but there are some things that I do agree with. But we collectively need to understand where we are and where we can move our state forward.
Right.
And it very well could be a democratic issue or idea that gets us to a better place and vice versa. So to that end, you know, yeah, he should know who I am.
Right.
I know who he is and I know what policies he puts forth, but I also know when there's a time where I need to stand up and say, hey, this is not something I can support, and this is not working for the people I represent.
Is the General Assembly what you thought it would be when you first went up there? Is it changed into something, or now that you're really at home there?
Yeah, well, I certainly did my research before running for the seat because I wanted to know kind of what I was getting in. And you never know what you're getting in until you get in it, if you will. So I took time to go to Annapolis, sit in the committees, and just really understand the lay of the land. But you know, once I have been able and am able to serve in the capacity, it's a lot faster paced than what I anticipated. You really do need roller skates at parts of the session because it's constant. It's every day, all day, you know, changing gears on issues. You're running from your main committee to your subcommittee and trying to keep all those balls in the air, and then meet with the constituency because at any given time, you know, constituents are coming to Annapolis and knowing that their issue is extremely important, and you want to hear them. You want to sit down and really hear what those concerns are and see how it can dovetail in the work. So it's different in the sense where I used to be on the county council, I used to have the time to do some more research and go to citizens' homes and say, what are your thoughts about this issue? But in Annapolis, you don't really get that intimate time. So that was an adjustment that I really had to really get used to because I knew that these decisions are a lot faster paced.
Right.
The leadership that I have been able to be a part of thus far has been great. I serve as an officer, once again, with the Legislative Black Caucus. We are very, very much involved in a lot of issues. We meet with the governor, we meet with the Attorney General, all of those individuals to make them aware of what our priorities are. Currently, I serve as the president of the Women's Caucus for the state of Maryland, and that in of itself is an opportunity to bring more attention to women's issues.
Right.
And so I've been able to really navigate my way through Annapolis, but then also gain the confidence and the respect from leadership. Those who have been serving for 20-some years, you know, they are guiding me through processes so I can get bills passed, so I can bring home the bond money as we know that funds a lot of infrastructure here in our counties. So that's what I'm going to continue to do and be able to garner those relationships enough to get what I need to make sure that I am working continuously for the people.
Yeah, being part of the Black Caucus, you have to know issues in even greater detail that are not necessarily your natural or home issues.
True. True.
So that really rounds you out even more.
Absolutely, absolutely. We've had some issues that dealt with bail's bondsmen. That was like a couple years ago. And those conversations of those issues are more heavily in the Baltimore City area. And so I needed to lean on my colleagues to understand those issues a little bit more and really be at the table with information, with enough knowledge to speak articulate enough about the issues. So that's one of many. I mean, we've been on the front lines and still are for the medical cannabis issue, trying
Right.
to move that forward. It got a little bit hiccup, if you will, in a couple sessions ago, but we're moving forward and we're wanting to ensure sure that minority businesses are having the opportunity to apply for licenses.
they're not left out.
So they're not left out because
Yeah.
they were intentionally left out in the application process. So the Black Caucus is at the helm of a lot of issues, and we're going to continue to work hard along with leadership and with all of those involved. And what I have been able to do is connect with a lot of citizens right here in my district and get them involved in what we're doing statewide with the Legislative Black Caucus. So that's been great as well.
Is there a big issue that you want to try to accomplish or work on in the next session?
It is, and I know this is not a one session issue,
Right.
but Medicaid rates is something that is very
killing
concerning to me.
Yeah.
It is concerning to me from the standpoint, whereas, we talk about the $15 an hour wage. On the surface, I think it's a wonderful idea, as most of us at any given point want to see our wages increase. But when I delved a little bit deeper into the issue, to realize that some industries, such as nursing homes and those healthcare industries and restaurant industry as well, but they, in particular with Medicaid rates, are not able to get the payments that are necessary to come up to the level of paying $15 an hour wages. Meaning that if your Medicaid rates for nursing care is capped at $54 a patient, and the true daily rate is $150 per
not gonna
patient,
work, yeah.
it's not going to work.
Yeah.
And so when we delve into those things, we see the issues that it could present. So that's something I know is a long-term plan or something that needs to be fixed, but it truly does, because at the end of the day, we want to see our senior citizens receive quality care. People across the board should be able to receive quality care and have quality options when they may have to choose to go into assisted living facilities, nursing homes, just basic care for that matter, making sure that those things are addressed and addressed in the sense where they can continue to live a quality life. But I'm just seeing it more and more on the front lines here. But that's something that I would like to see us navigate through while we are, as a state, addressing the premium rates, the insurance rates. That is something that we, as I said, our committee, as well as the governor and everybody in legislature, really know that people can't continue to pay these high premiums to keep insurance and keep the ability or have the ability to go to their doctor, the primary doctor, the dental insurance, and all those things without being able to afford it. So that's why we stepped in and asked for this waiver from the federal government to look at how we can provide insurance a little differently in the state of Maryland. That's an issue that's going to continuously need some attention. And it's going to be, the next couple of years will be good in the sense where the rate should be going down. We had a conversation this morning with the insurance commissioner, and the CareFirst and Kaiser and all those insurance companies are saying that the rates are going to go down. But it's because we as a state of Maryland decided to do something about it. But we're going to continue to have to work on it. I have a email address. It's really easy, Cherie@CherieSampleHughes.com. Certainly can contact me there. Always on Facebook and Twitter at Delegate Cherie. There are just opportunities for certainly get in contact me. And then constituent issues at my telephone number at just 410-841-3427. That's my office in Annapolis, and more than welcome to continue to work and be there for the people. I look forward to serving a second term.
She's Delegate Cherie Sample Hughes. We always love it when she's here because we learn a lot. Thanks for being here today, and good luck in the election.
Thank you.
I'm Greg Bassett from the Salisbury Independent Newspaper. Another election edition of One on One right here on PAC 14.
First Shore Federal is proud to support PAC 14 and One-on-One. We'd encourage every business to support PAC 14 and pick a program and support it, and let's make a difference.